Hi, this is MJG, and this is a rant, a bit of a rant, because I'm so bored with this subject. Everybody is aware that Frank Ocean, the artist, the R&B artist slash hip hop artist, everyone is aware that he came out on July 4th, July 3rd, July 4th. There have been a number of reactions to his coming out, stating that either he's gay or bisexual. He just said that his first love was a man. And I respect everybody's opinion about it. I really do. But I really need people to have more common sense or more of a heart, I guess. Because there are a lot of people who are saying, and let me state this too. I'm placing my opinion out there. People have placed their opinions out there. If you don't want people to argue with you about what your opinion is when you comment on something, then don't comment on it on a social network, or don't or disable the comments on the social network. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, these are all interacting. These are social networks, which means you're social, which means you interact. So if you don't want somebody to have an opinion on something that you think, then don't post for the world to see. Now, getting back to Frank Ocean, there are a number of people, and most of it is actually coming from that I've seen from straight black males, not even straight young black males. I could honestly, I could understand that if you were, between the ages of 16 and 25, and you thought, and Frank Ocean came out and he's in your age group, and so you're gonna say these things about him. But it's not even that. I'm getting the quote essentially that, oh well, Frank Ocean's coming out is a marketing ploy in order to get him a million YouTube followers, or in order to get him to sell his debut record to go platinum. Um, that's ridiculous. It just is. If any R&B artist, because everybody knows that 60 to 70% of hip hop and rap artists, their sales come from women. And if you want to look at the history of all the R&B artists and the rap artists, people in television and film, once it gets found out, or you get too heavily sensed that you might be gay or bisexual, which is essentially the same thing as far as how the audience looks at it, the audience of women looks at it. Once that has happened to you, and we've seen it, careers die quickly. People who had a successful album, their first album, in between the time that album, the first album came out, and they want to put out the second album, some people just keep holding off and holding off on releasing the album. Why? Because there's too many rumors of them being gay. And so the record companies are afraid to put them out. Even if it is good music, they're afraid to put them out because they're not going to sell. They're not going to get a return on their investment. Record companies are run, and businesses in entertainment, record companies, movie companies, film companies, they're run by accountants and lawyers. And so the only thing that they really care about is if the numbers are the same or more, which is why you have the packaging that you do when people first come out, because it's a general packaging. You wonder why, if you look at Michael Jackson's album, his first solo album, Chris Brown's first solo album, Usher's first solo album. If you look at those three albums, you'll see that the packaging, as far as the music, as far as The look is basically the same. It's because it's safe and they're selling to an audience. They're selling an image. Again, I get that. We all know that there's been the sexuality has been fluid for most people who are in, well, not just most people in the business, but we're talking about the entertainment business now. So yes, there are a lot of people who have a fluid sexuality, but they're not out with it. To say that Frank Ocean has done this in order to sell records, to sell more records, it doesn't make any sense because it's a terrible gamble. He has just started. It would be different if he had been an established artist and he was wanting to cross over, but even then I couldn't see it because the record company would be sorely afraid of losing whatever fan base that he had to begin with to jump off with. I don't know. You should really look at his Tumblr. I'm going to post. Go ahead and I'll post the link in this video at the bottom. The link will be at the bottom. You have to read that letter that he posted. He talks about not being gay. Like, he doesn't say, "I just want to let you guys know that I'm gay." He goes into graphic detail about his first love, which was a man, another 19-year-old like himself, and the way that he's written it is poetry. It's essentially a love poem of his thoughts. You can't. It's not a mark. It doesn't even make any sense. It's not a marketing ploy. People are like, okay, well, he came out after Anderson Cooper came out. Who, honestly, when you think Frank Ocean, do you think Anderson Cooper? When you think Anderson Cooper, do you think Frank Ocean? No. A lot of people didn't even know who he was, especially in my demographic. We're like, who? Frank who? Oh, he did Novocaine. We may have heard Novocaine, Jay-Z and Kanye's album from last summer, but for the most part, I mean, and I've been talking to people all over the world. I've been asking the opinions of people in England. You know, the one response that I got from a Twitter follower in England was, "I thought Frank Ocean was a restaurant until this big news about him came out." I mean, it just seems to me that people are going out of their way to try to discount how genuine this young man is and kind of separate him from his music and separate his identity. Like, they're having a hard time dealing with the fact that this guy came out and people aren't really that upset about it. Most of the responses that I've seen have been from young women, white, black, Hispanic, and they don't care. They just care about having good music. Now, if you want to talk about, okay, well, it's kind of suspicious because he's coming out 2 weeks before his album drops. Okay. One, if your point is that this was planned, that his coming out was planned before the album dropped, yeah, you're damn right it was. This is the business. So when Frank was making the album and writing the songs, all of this had to be discussed first. There's nothing that happens in business that is by happenstance. Because like I said, they hate surprises. They want things to be nice and calm, and they want to be able to dictate. So yeah, he has had a PR team that has been working on it, but he's been releasing the songs on the album internationally, building a following for himself over the last 6 months. Because this is not the first time that this has come up, that quote unquote he might be gay. So I just feel like people don't want to understand how difficult a step this is for him. And the idea that that he's not actually gay, or this is a marketing scheme to sell more records, is ridiculous. You have to honor the person and honor their journey, regardless of how you feel about their music. There are some people who may not like Frank Ocean's music. Yes, he's been able to garner a lot more followers because of the fact that he decided to come out. What he's doing, somebody in his position who's a young artist, male and black, is unheard of. People talk about, well, Michelle D'Ancello. She came out and she said she was bisexual. Yeah, Michelle D'Ancello was already established by then. So it wasn't as big. It wasn't as big a deal for her. She hasn't, in my knowledge, she hasn't worked with. She's worked with international artists, of course, but she hasn't worked with high pop selling artists here in the States. You know, and she wasn't at the start of her career when she came out. She had released a couple of albums before that. My point simply is, don't use this as an opportunity to bash Frank or to discount his journey as a human being and the fact that he's been brave enough to tell us honestly who he is. It's the very thing that you should want somebody to do. It's important for other people to do it as well, to have this example. And hopefully this will change the landscape of how we look at music and how we look at people in music. And it'll be some great music that comes out of this. That's my rant. That's it. A lot of people, they ask me who I am, and I let them know. I'm a storyteller, just passing by. Remember that. Deuces.